Hi guys, and welcome back to another tutorial of Siemens Logosoft. I had a message from Paul, asking if we can look at analogues and so forth on this Logo Smart Relay. So what I've done is I have chosen in the hardware the OBA4. This gives me a couple of digital inputs, 8 in fact, and a couple of analog outputs as well. So what we'll do is we will just create a simple little program. We'll put in, you notice on the left hand side here we have now got a lot more objects that we can place in our program. If you remember from the previous videos, this had been minimized due to the type of PLC or the type of smart relay we were using. So to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to put in an analog input. Okay, so we choose our analog input as number 1. Okay, and we will just wire that up for the moment. And what we will do is put in just a threshold trigger. Okay, so we'll just add in a threshold trigger there and we'll connect that up. Now what we want to do is when we reach an analog threshold, we'll have an output that is switched on. So it could be, for example, a level measurement in a tank, and if we reach a certain level then it triggers a high level alarm or something along those lines. So what we need to do is take a contact from this, so we'll take a normal make contact and we'll place that into there, and out of the list we'll just move that to one side. Notice the name of it here, SF001, which is just there. We'll click that so that that contact now comes off of this one. Quickly just wire that one up, and we will take a simple relay coil and add that, and we'll leave that as Q1. So basically now we need to set up the analog. If I just double click this now, this analog threshold trigger, you see now that you get a page coming up with all your analog settings. So we'll choose, well, you can choose anything by selecting from the sensor. It could be a PT100, it could be a 4 to 20 milliamps or 0 to 20 milliamps or 0 to 10 volts. Just for ease we'll leave it as 0 to 10 volts. Minimum and maximum you can set depending on what the output of your analog thing is, and then you can set your gains and your offsets here. What we'll say is that we want it to come on when it reaches 9 volts, and we want it to go off when it drops below 3 volts. So that gives our high level signal a variance that we've got to empty the particular storage tank down to a certain level before the alarm goes off, and we'll show you how this works now. So we've got a basic little circuit there. If I press F3, that'll put me into simulation. Now I'm going to set my analog down to 0, and you notice that the value of that trigger is 0 at the moment. The analog is not doing anything for us and our output is off. So I'm going to slowly raise this up. Notice that our output here, Q1, is still off, and we're going to reach it, and once we get to above 9, in other words 10, we're above 9, our little trigger triggers. Our contact goes on and our output goes on. The output now stays on until, and as you see I'm now lowering the input down, and it comes off at 3. Okay, so that's a simple little PID if you like, but it's a simple little analog input to an output circuit. Okay, let's just escape that one, and we will remove those for now, and we'll do now a comparator. Okay, the comparator is very simple, but it looks a little weird, but let's put our analog contact back in. We'll use analog 1 again, and we're going to use 2 of these, and this time I'm going to use analog 2. I'm going to quickly wire those up. Now on a comparator, obviously you have AX, which is one input, and you have AY, which is your second input, because of course you're comparing 2 inputs together. Okay, we'll have a make contact again, and again this time we'll make it our analog comparator. I quickly wire that up, and we put in our relay coil as well, which we'll keep at Q1. Okay, now if we double click on that, we get our simple page up again. We'll leave everything the same here, but we'll say that we wanted to switch on at 5, and off at 3. Now notice here that there is a difference between the two of about 2 volts. Okay, that's going to be our threshold. Because we're working 0 to 10 volts, we're going to be a difference of 2 between 3 and 5. Okay, escape and F3. Now when we reach on analog 1 above 5, in other words 6 volts, our comparator has got a difference. If I increase our analog 2, the difference between our units is now 3, so it goes off. If I raise that up again so that we've got a difference, our comparator triggers and our output goes on. And if I raise the analog so that we have a smaller difference of 3, again our comparator goes off and our output goes off. So you can see that setting up the comparator, you can have say 2 sensors or 2 temperature probes, and if there is a difference you can switch the heating on, and when it reaches a certain level you can then switch it off. Okay, those are the basic ones, and the analog amplifiers and so forth, you've got 1 input, and if you double click them, you can now set up your maximums and minimums, and again you can trigger those once they reach certain levels. Okay, or as an amplifier, obviously you can set the values to be 10 times more than what the inputs are, and then you can use those to trigger comparators or outputs or anything you like. Okay, there are a few there, all very similar, watchdogs and differentials. If you're not sure about some of these, if you pull the watchdog out for example, you can right click, select it first, right click and go to your help, and the help file comes up here. Let's just open this up, and it does give you quite a good explanation of what it is that that particular object does. Okay, it gives you the inputs there, the parameters that you need, and how the output will work, and normally gives you a nice little diagram based on those parameters and the inputs there. Alright, so I hope that's been a little bit more useful for you and helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them, and I would love for you to click the like or even the dislike, and if you do dislike it, please by all means send me a little comment, and I will try and make a change to the video, add a new one, or answer that point in some detail.